Alright, so guys, I'm working on a 1988 Nissan 200SX V6. It's the SE model, obviously, 6-cylinder. It's got a manual shift. So, as you guys know, this is my project car. Just did the back brakes in my previous episode, and this is the front brakes. As you can see, rusty as all hell, just like the fronts. Anyways, I took out the old tire, which obviously needs to be replaced. It's 4 lug nuts. Using a 21 size inch to replace these guys. As you can see, this hub is a nightmare. I will tell you, I hate these things. This design is a nightmare. So I got to take this guy out. I'm gonna replace this, put new pads in, and at the same time you have to get this whole assembly out. Now I'm hoping that the caliper is good, so I hope that is good. I can't tell right now because obviously the brakes aren't, the car doesn't start, and I can't really test this, so I'm hoping that this caliper is good, and I will find that out once I take this guy off. But I will try to show you the video of possibly replacing this, and I do know it is a nightmare to remove this thing, especially this thing being on here for so long and so many years, that this is going to be interesting. So anyways, I wanted to show the video of what this thing looks like. As you can see, this rotor is going to be interesting looking. If you ever seen this, trying to buy this online, it doesn't look like a normal rotor. It has like these weird grooves on the inside because of this crown hub, I guess you can call it. So anyways, stay tuned. I'll be replacing this. That's all. Bye. Alright, so took out the brakes, and it definitely, like I kind of figured, definitely needs to be replaced. This is totally rusty. There's a caliper, and as to what I can see, if I don't replace it, it's definitely needing time to be replaced. As you can see, the conditions of this thing is it's pretty rough. So it looks like I'm gonna have to replace the caliper, and I'm still working on getting this hub taken off. So this is basically off. Used a 19 to take out the caliper brackets bolts, which wasn't too bad. I did use an extension just to kind of get back here from behind the strut. So there's 2 bolts here and here to take them out. I obviously took these things out, just using a standard 14, which I used one of these to do. Very simple and easy to get to. But now comes the hard part of basically taking this whole hub out, and I gotta pull this thing out to get the rest of the stuff taken out. And we'll see what the next step is. All right, so after hacking away a little bit, just using pry bar and a hammer from the top there, I was able to get this thing loosened up. Luckily, this thing's actually been gooped up pretty good. So whoever serviced this, did a pretty decent job in making sure this thing was not gonna lock up. But now comes the fun part of trying to clean this up so that I can actually get this off. And usually, because there's a cotter pin right here, I have to yank this thing out. So we'll see how this thing goes. All right, well, after fighting a little bit, so obviously you got the cotter pin out, you straighten it out, that kind of locks into these little grooves here. So took out the cotter pin using some pliers and a hammer. Now comes this little crown right here that comes right off. There you go, that little guy right there. Then this should come right out, but may have to take this big guy out too. So that's for the axle. But let me see if I can just hammer this guy out. All right, so after yanking out the cotter pin, that little nut was actually hand tightened, which is interesting. It's supposed to use like a 25, I think, because I tried a 24, it didn't fit. It's supposed to be a 25 to get that thing out, but it took no effort at all, just spun it and that was it. So I kind of already took this off first because I wanted to make sure I was going to fight with it. But when you take this off, you're going to see the wheel bearing here, which will come out. And of course, because of the dust and the dirt that you see down here, when this thing comes off, there's going to be a lot of debris, as you can kind of see right there. You want to make sure that when you do take this off, you clean it. You put a lot of axle grease back in it when you replace the rotor. So just make sure you clean this all up and there's no debris or dust or any little things inside of it, because it may cause some wear to your wheel bearing. Alright, so about to yank this thing out and show you guys the end. Now I took the rotor off, and you can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts in here, which I'm going to assume is probably a 14 inch is what my guess would be for this. Give me 1 sec, let me find that. So 14 does fit it. So now it's just a matter of trying to yank this thing out, which is going to be a fun task, as you can see how rusty this thing is. But actually the axle is actually in really good shape. Even the everything else around it looks good. So this is just going to be a rusty bolt fun job to do next. So to get these bolts off when they're super rusty like this, one of the best methods I found is to, flip the wheel upside down and stick this in the wheel while having your friend stand on the wheel and someone pulling on this and getting it off, just like that. So, little trick if you've ever got this thing off and you couldn't figure out how to get these bolts off, that's how you do it. Alright, so now trying to fight this thing to get this thing off, you just gotta basically take a sledgehammer and something that's sharp that you can, like a puncture. I'm just gonna have basically something like this. I'm just gonna try to wedge in here and hammer this thing down as hard as I can to get this thing off, because this thing is probably very seized. So that's how you get this thing off, which is why it's a nightmare. Well, after hacking away, finally got her loose. Whoa, look at that. Wow. Well, that's the whole thing right there. I don't even know what that thing is called, but man, that's a nightmare. And why did they design it like this? I don't know. But anyways, done. Now for the new rotor. Here's the old rotor, and here's the new rotor. Much better, big difference, much cleaner. So unfortunately I'm gonna have to use the old hub right there to get that put in, and I'm gonna work on doing that right now. So just wanted to show you when I finally get these things put in here, you just finish up doing the reverse of what you just did earlier in reverse. And so originally in the video I had this rotor here, which is actually the driver's side, and had to switch it out to get the side. So I usually like to kind of grease these guys up a little bit just to kind of get some goop on them, and stick them in here and just tighten them up. Then I'm going to put this guy here onto there so it holds it in place, and then I can tighten up these screws on the rotor, and then basically replace the caliper and the brake pads and put everything back together. Alright, and then of course obviously make sure that there is no debris or dust or anything like that got in here. I'm going to be making sure you get some axle grease for the wheel bearing, because obviously it might have gotten something on there. Alright, that's all. Alright guys, so this is the upgraded brakes I just put on for the fronts. Again, taking out the rotors was a pain, as you probably saw in the earlier parts. So I got the rotor on. I just put the new caliper on right here. It's being held by 2 bolts back here, as you can kind of tell right there. There's 1 bolt there, and I had to use the old bolts unfortunately, but that's all right. I just kind of greased them up and make sure that they're that they got some play in them, when it comes to removing them. I obviously noticed that the ball joints here, or sway bar links, whatever you want to call them, these have to be replaced at some point. That'll be for another future time. But yeah, as you can see, this is all cleaned up. I'm about to put in the pads. This one came with R1 Concept, which is an eBay purchase, which is, the rotors came with the pads, and these are the pads right here. They're no name brand, but like I said, it does the job for what I need it to do. It's just basically direct replacement brakes, but making it look really cool. All right, so just about to pop this guy back in. I did notice when I bought the full calipers like this, I did have to reuse this, you know, this screw, because you see how long that is right there. And the problem is that the ones that come with this is actually short. So there is a, you know, it's much shorter. So unfortunately I can't use this. So this is kind of garbage unless I change out the brake line, which again, I could use these if that's the case. So I'm just gonna keep this in my bag because I can definitely reuse the brake line for now. At some point I may upgrade this later to a steel braided line. But for right now, looks like it's good. Let's go put the shims on and put the pads in and finish her up, and that's it. Thanks again for watching, guys. Take care. Alright, you guys, that is it. Those are brake calipers, rotors, brake pads, 1988 Nissan 200 SX V6 brake replacement and upgrade. Wasn't really that hard. Again, just kind of difficult replacing this crown hub thing, which is a nightmare, as you saw. Other than that, overall wasn't too bad, even though considering the age of the vehicle, how rusty things are in here. As you can see, again, this car was sitting for 12 years, so there are some interesting things that I had to replace in here. Just so you're gonna also, with this thing, had a clutch issue. I didn't get a chance to really make a video, but little creepy crawlers in here. But you see this right here, this is the master cylinder, which I had to replace. And all it was that the clutch I couldn't push down the clutch. So for some reason, it just, you know, it was hard as a rock. Couldn't push down on it. All I had to do was replace that the slave cylinder for the clutch. It was a maybe $20 item, or a little less than that. Just go down there, remove those two bolts, and the you know, bleed the line right there, just like how you do brakes. And that was pretty much it. It was actually one of the most simplest things ever. And I tried getting quotes to see what's the deal. Is it a clutch issue? Everybody kept telling me, oh, you know, it's gonna cost over $1,000 to get this thing fixed. I was like, whoa, hold on. It can't be that difficult to replace a slave cylinder. You know, I understand maybe a clutch, but even a clutch shouldn't cost that much. So anyways, just wanted to give you a gander what it looks like underneath here. It is, like I said, work in progress. Replacing a couple things here and there, getting things cleaned up. Obviously, you want the car to stop, so we got to make sure that is good to go. So there it is, you know, 1988 Nissan 200SX. I will be replacing the struts at some point, as you can see here. This is still the factory strut. It's actually, believe it or not too bad as far as suspension is concerned. It actually holds pretty well, but overall I will be replaced this just because of how rusty this thing is, and making sure that this thing is going to be a little bit more tighter on the road. And of course, obviously, all the bushings, all the suspension pieces, all that stuff is going to get replaced, as you can see. But overall, I'm pretty happy about everything and how things are going. So we'll see you next time. Take care, guys. Bye bye.